In this video, we're going to talk about font sizes. And I have pulled up from W3 Schools, the World Wide Web Consortium. Their site has, anytime you want to find anything about anything dealing with HTML and CSS, this is the place to go. But they have a little page about font sizes. So font size property sets the size of the text, much like you would in a word processor. Right? In a word processor, you use point. You have 16-point font or 14-point font, an 8-point font. And fonts do exist in HTML as well. We're going to kind of ignore all of the possibilities and talk about the most common possibilities for how we set fonts. So fonts can be set by absolute sizes. So I can say this font is a 16-point font. It's great. It sets the text to a specified size, but it does not allow a user to change the text size in all browsers. And that's not good because of accessibility. Visually impaired people sometimes need to go on their browser and set the font size bigger, the default fonts. So absolute sizes are good when the physical size of the output is known, but it's bad for a lot of other reasons. So most of the time, you'll see people using relative sizes. And a relative size sets the size relative to the surrounding elements. It allows a user to change the text size in their browser. So if I say my default font, I want it to be bigger because I'm visually impaired, or just because my eyes are old, for those of us that wear reading glasses, I can set my font size bigger, and everything will scale in proportion to that default font size. So note that in most browsers, if you don't specify an exact font size, the default size for normal text, like a paragraph, is 16 pixels. 16 pixels is equal to 1 EM. So we'll talk about those EMs in a second. So if I want to set my font size using absolute sizes, I can do something like this. For my H1s, I can say font size is 40 pixels. I could say my H2, the font size is 30 pixels. And for my paragraph, the font size is 14 pixels. But I like to use EMs, and most people I think do use EMs. And EMs is proportional size. It does allow the users to set their default font on their browser and scales in relation to that. So if I say something is 2.5 EMs and the default is 16, 2.5 EM would be 40 pixels then, because it's 2.5 times 16. If I say my font size is 1.875 EM, that would give me the 30 pixel font at the default settings. But if somebody raises it up, say they're using a 2 EM, and they raise their default font from 16 to 20, a 2 EM font would be 40, it'd be twice that much. So you can think of it as a multiplication factor, 2.5 times a normal font, 1.875 times a normal font for H2s. Paragraph sizes, 0.875 EM would actually make a 14 pixel font from the default of 16. Right? So you can use a little bit of combination of that. You can also use percentages. So for the body, font size is 100%, which we use the default of 16 normally, and make my H1s 2.5 times bigger than the body, and my H2 would be 1.875 bigger than the body, and make my paragraph 0.875 EMs. So let's actually go do that. And we'll talk about responsive sites later. But let's go do that in our website now. Let's go over here. Let's go up to my H1, set the font size. So font size 2 EM. Save it, refresh, and nothing changed. Why is that? Because the default for an H1 is 2 EM. It's twice as big as a normal font. So let's change it to 2.5 EM. Actually, let's make it 3. Really make a drastic difference. If I hit refresh, now all of a sudden you can see it's 3 times bigger than a normal font. Okay, 2.5 should be somewhere in between what we had in this one. So I can make that my font size. Matter of fact, if I wanted to do, I wouldn't want to do that to all my headings, because if I made H1 through H6 all 2.5 EM, then they'd all be the same size, and now we lose our scaling. H1s are bigger than H2, bigger than H3, etc. Let's do our body. Let's do the font size equals 0.875 EM. Let's do that one and see what it does to our body text. That's a little bit smaller. I'm not sure I actually like that. 1 EM would be normal. If we're going to do that, we really don't have to set it at all. That takes us back to what it normally is. So you can experiment with font size.